Hi, everybody. Welcome to our February SLT. I'm going to be handing it over to our facilitator for tonight, the PA president, Mr. Shaffron.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it literally a couple of minutes for people to fill in the room, and we'll start. We have a packed agenda for today, and we know there will be a lot of opportunities to speak. So we'll need to make sure that we are tight in our timing. All right. With that, let me just give maybe another minute for everyone to start. And I'm going to, seems like we have a lot of folks that came in as attendees. All right. So hello, everyone again. Good evening. My name is Alex Shaffron. I'm facilitating today, and I think we should probably start with the approval of the minutes from the our previous meeting. So those were distributed. Please let me know if there are any comments or any edits or anything else. And if the answer is since I don't hear anybody raising their hands, I would like to ask everyone I would like to have a motion for the meeting approvals. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. And minutes are approved. Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, we're moving on to our agenda, which is, as I mentioned, is quite tight, and we will start with principals update. Principal Yu, handing it off to you. Thank you.
Great. Hey everyone, and welcome back from our midwinter recess. Hopefully everyone is got an opportunity to decompress and relax, and so good to be back and good to see everyone. I'm going to focus the update on kind of two key things that we have been planning for or are currently planning for, and I know I've raised lots of questions on what we're going to do. So let me first start off with SAT. Again, this has been an ongoing conversation and took a little bit more emphasis because we did not administer the PSAT. Again, the school building is currently closed, and so there have been questions around what the in-school SAT and whether or not we would be able to administer it. So through the College Board, they have given multiple testing dates to allow for the possibility of in-school SAT. The Department of Education is giving guidance and saying that if schools want to administer it, we're able to. And so currently we are in the process of looking to try to safely administer the in-school SAT to our junior class and any seniors who have not taken it and need an opportunity to do so. And so we are currently looking at 3 administration dates, which would allow for about 300 students, assuming that everyone will be taking it in the junior class, to come on one of the 3 days that we would be potentially administering it, which is March 24th, April 13th, and April 27th. And again, part of this that we've been looking at is, we've heard very loud and clear that our juniors, the vast majority, both students and families would like to sit for the in-school SAT at Stuyvesant if we're able to offer it. And so prior to the midwinter recess, we sent out, again, a survey to the students just to get some inquiry around their interest and then potentially what preference of date. That was not a registration. It was just, again, getting a sense of kind of the interest and then what are the possible dates amongst those 3 that I just indicated. So we are looking to do that, for bringing in approximately 300 kids on each of those days. A few considerations that we are having to really think about. One is the loss of instructional time. Again, I know our teaching staff is really worried about that because of the way we did our schedule. So we're really having to be very mindful of that and how we can do it in a way where we're minimizing any loss of instruction. having enough proctors and other staff to be able to administer it safely and to follow all protocols, both testing and safety. So we'll need that in terms of looking at having our staff and trying to do so in a safe way. And again, both thinking about that for students and staff in terms of being able to administer the SAT. And then, again, I think just overall procedures in this and enough lead time to allow students, staff, and families to be able to make some key decisions here. But it is my intent that we will administer the in-school SAT on those 3 days. And at the current time, working with Dr. Haber to set that up and ideally being able to do that in as safe as a manner as we can, working with our staff and working with their families to be able to do that. So that's one thing that we're planning for. And again, these are things that are going to continue we'll give you updates. I've gotten a lot of emails from families about what we're doing so that they can make some decisions. And I know several families have signed up at other locations and we're potentially wanting to change if we are able to administer in school, at Stuyvesant. And so again, I want to be very clear. My intent is that we will be administering it, but we'll be doing so as safely and and following all protocols as possible. The second update has to do with advanced placement examinations. The College Board, again, because of the pandemic, has created some flexibilities around testing. And because New York starts school so late, it always puts us at a disadvantage when, in the normal period, AP examinations usually happen in early to mid-May. Because of the pandemic, College Board has given 3 windows of examination dates. And so we're currently looking to determine what those dates will be for us to be able to administer AP examinations. So currently, we're looking at all of the planning, and to just be clear on this, we are trying to, again, consider not losing any instructional time and trying to maximize as much instructional time as we can. We've heard loud and clear from our teachers that they need as much time as possible because of our current model. So we're looking at the second and third windows of administration, which would be mid to late May and on through June. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And so again, because we are a school that administers so many AP examinations, we have to be really intentional about trying to be able to put forth all of these examinations with minimal conflicts, because we have several students who take more than one AP. And so again, this is kind of a puzzle piece that Dr. Haber and our team are working on. But right now we're looking at the second and third windows, and we're trying to get this and finalize this as soon as tomorrow so that we can let our staff know, as well as students and families, of when these dates would be. Right now, I can tell you that the earliest exam date that we'd have to look at is, and this is something that just to take note, is many of the world languages are going to require in person. And so those are one of the earlier ones that we would have to look at. And the earliest that we would be looking at is a May 4th testing. The ones that can be done digitally, which will be the vast majority of all of the examinations, start taking place somewhere in the second window around May 18th and beyond. And so we want to make sure that we can do that and to be able to space it out, and as well as making sure that we're following all the guidelines here. I want to note a few things around the AP examinations, just again, so that you can be clear on our thinking around this. Our thought process was, one, we wanted to make sure we maximize as much instructional time and to give teachers and students as much time as possible before taking any of the AP examinations, which is why we looked at the second and third windows here. Secondly, our intent is that because we don't know yet about school reopening, that the examinations would be administered digitally, which means it would be done at home. And again, we know that there's some technological issues that we'll have to deal with. That also gives us a little bit more time to be able to deal with that. We need to make sure every student has a DOE issued device, not an iPad, that then they in turn can be able to take these AP examinations. And so we're going to need some lead time to make sure that we can swap out any devices that may need to be swapped out. And then the third thing here is again, we want to try to make decisions as quickly as we can. And so this is why we want to make sure that once we solidify these dates, this is what we're gonna go with. One slight note that again added a new wrinkle to all of this is the federal government indicated that state examinations will occur. New York State put in for a waiver. We're waiting for updates about what that might look like, if it's going to be even accepted. And there's still lots of speculation about what may happen in terms of the state examinations that need to be that align with the federal requirements. So there could even be a possibility that the only Regents examinations that would be offered would be math, English, and so thinking about the ones that have to be specifically administered. We have no idea yet. But the point of it is that there are two things to note about if we are required to administer Regents. One will be that one of those administration dates is a June 2nd, which is, at least from what the state indicated a year ago, would be, I think, US history. That's also one of the potential dates for an AP examination. So that's something that we're keeping in mind. And then the last piece around Regents, if it is that we have to administer it, is that we would go from AP examinations straight into Regents examinations. And so again, we're trying to account for, instruction and what's the best way to position both students and staff to be as successful as they can be on these examinations. So these are all considerations. We want to make decisions ASAP so that we can get people to be able to be prepared. But I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that these decisions will be made and are being made as we speak. And we're trying to finalize before the end of this week, particularly for the AP schedule, so that teachers and students and families are aware of what that schedule will look like. So I know I threw a lot at you, but wanted to make sure we talked about those two key pieces. And I'm more than happy to take any questions if there are any, if we have time.
Thank you, Principal Yu. Are there any questions for the principal? Any points? All right. No. Oh, there it goes. Yes, Shivali.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, as a junior, I think there's obviously the con of losing instructional time by administering the SAT, but I think if we're able to finally give juniors the chance to take that test, which they've been trying to do a lot this past year, I think they're more than capable to make up on those 5 periods of loss that day. So I think it's just a priority we should keep in mind.
Thank you.
Our goal would be to minimize any instruction, so definitely.
Allow the minutes to reflect that Shivali and her peers are willing to miss class that day.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson.
Hi, sorry, I think because I can share my screen, I can't raise my hand, which is fine. So we have a bunch of students who did not take Regents last year. I'm thinking of like the English Regents, for example, that we usually administer to juniors. Would we be thinking of like doubling up this year then? Would we have twice as many students taking the English Regents, or is there another way of doing that? Casey, you've got a plan.
I was just simply going to reflect that those students will have received a waiver for that exam last year. And although our students do enjoy taking exams and some of them would be interested in doing that, we would have to prioritize those students who are due to take it this year.
All right. Okay, Ms. Madro.
I just wanted to note, Shivali, that it's not just the juniors who would be missing content time. It would be all of the teachers who are going to miss class time to proctor the exam. And that's what we're really worried about, is for all of the other students who are going to have to miss class, because for those 3 days, teachers won't be able to do their classes.
All right. Okay. Principal Yu.
Can I just note on that, and I appreciate what Ms. Maggio and both what Shivali said. We've been looking at that and trying to figure out exactly a plan that would not require that all teachers miss on all 3 of those dates. So we are going to take that into strong consideration about how we can do it in a way that, if anything, ideally there would only be, if the subject area is only missing would lose 1 day out of those 3 days. But we're going to do everything in our power to try to minimize any instructional time loss for students and clearly the teachers in wanting to administer the SAT.
Okay. Thank you very much, Principal Yu. Any other questions before we move on? Looks like we're good. All right. Thank you very much. And we are moving to the third part of our agenda, mental health discussion. So, Principal Yu, would you be kicking that off?
Yeah, I can start, and I know this has been a really critical topic that I'm sure tonight we'll have a lot of voices, which I think is really important. So I want to frame some of this conversation, and again, I think tonight will be an opportunity just for us to hear the multiple perspectives around this particular issue. So one, I want to stress this. We take mental health and what I'll call student well-being very, very as a high priority. And again, we're fortunate we have a student body who is very active and wants to help change the school for the better, and that really has been an important piece here. I also believe our staff and our families are also wanting the same and really thinking about what's the student experience at Stuyvesant. And particularly under the pandemic, I think a lot of things have been magnified and clearly, I've said this before, when we came up with our approach with remote instruction, there wasn't a blueprint here. And while there have been, I think lots of benefits, there are clearly always some negatives around that. And again, we're not the only school dealing with a lot of these mental health issues and a lot of this fatigue and all the things many schools are. And so, again, we're all trying to figure out ways that we can improve on this. So I want to just say that because I think it's really important to know that, we have prioritized this, and there are a lot of things that are happening. And again, I think tonight's conversation hopefully will allow us to be able to see some of those things and then start getting to some of the granular pieces here. So one, I just want to start with this particular piece, which is when we talk about mental health, and I've gotten lots of emails, had different conversations, and trying to really think about how do we tackle this issue, both from a short-term and a longer-term perspective. And again, I've only been here since August, and many, all of you have been here longer than I have, and know some of the rich history here. So this isn't something that, again, isn't things that just happen are going to quickly change. It's going to take some time, and there's going to be a process. But again, if we can start thinking about how to categorize some of the ways that we're approaching this, I think would be really helpful. And so after I had heard the presentation from the student union, it really made me start thinking a little bit more about how do we tackle this work in a way that's that we think about the structures that potentially need to be adjusted. What are the ways in which we get all the various stakeholders involved in being able to really think about the student experience at Stuyvesant High School. And so when we heard that, kind of three buckets of areas really kind of stood out to me when we're hearing the presentation. And so when we talk tonight, I think one of the things we really want us to stress is there are kind of really three categories here. One is academics and workload. And tonight, I think we're going to have an opportunity to hear from some of the teachers, and clearly I'm sure students will also want to chime in, and families, just around workload in general. I sent out an email last night to all of you with kind of a deck with some information around course load and free periods. I'm going to just touch on that a little bit. But again, I think what really we're trying to think about is what's the academic kind of experience that young people are having in relation to kind of this overall well-being, and what are the ways that we can really think about how to maximize productivity for students and staff in this. The second big category really is around socialization and community building. And we heard this today in our safety meeting from some students just around connections with one another, connections with adults. Really, it's around what are the ways, maybe besides remotely, are kids connecting to one another so that there are outlets outside of kind of non-academics and just ways just of relationship building that are really important. We're really lucky that we have a student union that, and our pubs and clubs, all of, I mean, you know, you look at their calendar, there's always something going on. And there's so many different events that happen on the weekdays and weekends. And so, you know, some of this is around like, one, are people aware that these things are happening and are readily available? Two, who's participating? And more importantly, who's not participating? And then the third piece, and I think is also really key here for us to think about, is again, like, you know, what's enough and what's too much, right? And part of this that I think comes into play here is, again, you know, we don't know what's the optimal amount, you know, for connectivity or connections and socialization. And so part of this is also trying to be able to investigate a little bit more so that we can then start thinking about who really needs the supports, or where are the ways that we can provide supports, and particularly then start tiering it out for those who really need it the most. And then the last bucket, I think, is this, because Joanne sent out some really great articles for us to read, and I really appreciated all of the different perspectives. The one from some of our valedictorians I thought were really kind of insightful, and the one particularly from Wake Forest I thought was also really, really interesting. But the third bucket is around mental health supports and services. I think, you know, every school grapples with this, where there are students and families that are dealing with a lot of stress and some really deeper, much more severe mental health issues, and maybe even social services that, you know, we have to consider. And again, I bucket that because I think there are varying degrees that we have to be very mindful of around how we're approaching this work around mental health, and getting, you know, again, students and families who are in different degrees, where we're able to make sure we're getting them the right services and supports, so that we can kind of tackle this, you know, comprehensively around our school community. But I wanted to break that out because, again, I think that's really important when we think about this work, that we can't talk in large swaths around like the entire school, because there's so many different pockets and buckets of students in this. And so wanted to be really mindful of that. But I'm going to show two documents, and then we'll talk a little bit more and give more folks opportunities to chime in. So one document I want to just quickly show, and this is something that, again, I think want to stress as a work in progress. Let's do this real quickly. What's this? Here we go. So I sent this to all of you around the buckets here, and some key questions that, you know, we're asking ourselves, and then we'll continue to ask one another, particularly with all the stakeholders here around these key areas. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, you know, we have close to 3,400 students, more than 200 staff, and, you know, so many family members and such. So we have to think about ways that we think about how we leverage our resources and how we tackle this issue. And so one of my priorities here for Stuyvesant is to document information so that we in turn then can be much more public facing here around the things that we are doing, so that, again, we can hold ourselves accountable, but we can also be on the same page about how we're approaching this work. And so what you see here are just, again, some questions, and we'll share this with everyone so that you can chime in as well. But it's the three buckets here, and again, wanting to think about how we tackle these three buckets of work around student well-being. The key piece around here is this, and this is something we talked with the student union, and which, you know, we've been talking with our administration, and we'll continue to talk to the staff and everyone else, was this idea about public commitment, so that, again, we're all on the same page about the things that we are going to try to do to build better support student well-being and their productivity here. And so one of the starting points that we had, which Ms. Petrick is gonna also showcase, is a public-facing document around the things that our guidance and counseling team, our approach of how we support young people at Stuyvesant in their experience around student well-being. These are documents that, again, are works in progress that at least lays out how we're approaching this work. And again, I think these are really important, so that, again, these aren't gotcha, used to be gotcha documents. They're used to be like, hey, this is what we're saying we're doing. Are we doing it? Can we get better? What are the ways that we can have really productive conversations around these key issues? The document that you're seeing now that I'm sharing is, again, around the 3 buckets and then around the various stakeholders and the things that we want to put out that we're going to work on to try to support student well-being. So tomorrow when we have department conferences, I've asked our department chairs to work with their departments to think about what are the ways that we can focus on academics and workload. What are the adjustments and or practices or strategies that we can put in play so that we can, again, support student well-being. And let's put it out there. So this is one that, we're not working in silos. We're working as a school community around the things that we're working on to try to improve so that, again, there can be clarity about how we're supporting young people. So it includes the administration, the guidance and counseling, all our departments, even our student union and our families, where we can start putting out the things that we want to be able to say we're working on and prioritize in terms of student well-being. And again, we want to, as we work on these are the things that we can work on, and we can, again, continue to have ideally productive conversations. And then the third element of this would be around all the key resources, which is some of the things that are currently happening that I'm not sure everyone is aware is happening and or aware that it's available. Again, part of this discussion is really around, can we identify the students and families who are really struggling, and can we connect them to the right resources? And so again, some of this is about uncovering and unveiling, what's available and what we have. And so, this came up even in when the student union gave their presentation, around some surveys, again, like where are the academic policy documents, all of those things. Those are all really important pieces around, do people know where key resources and services and supports are available? So we got to make sure that connection is happening. So the last thing I just want to quickly share before I ask Ms. Pedrick just to talk a little bit about some of those support services is this. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but I think it's just important. I sent this out to the staff and sent it to all of you. Just around some key things around our program, which I think are just important. One of the unique elements of Stuyvesant is the fact that we offer such an array of courses, as well as an array of AP. And again, trying to think about what's the optimal amount for students to be productive, really, again, stood out to me. Let me see if I can do this really quickly. Why am I not seeing this? Oh, here we go. So the key thing here that I want to showcase is again, we've got to start identifying students and kind of where they are in all of this, and some of it, and a lot of it starts with the programming, like their course load, and so we fortunately have access to a system called STARS, which allows us to then be able to take a look at our student program, and so once we set our spring program, was able to pull this out and just to get some preliminary information. I think again, this isn't to say one thing or the other. It's just to give you some information about like how we can utilize this tool. But a few key things to just want to point out. Here's our total enrollment in each of the grade levels. Some of the things that, again, when we thought about our programming, we wanted to think about graduation requirements, and particularly around where they are in the sequence. We wanted to make sure that kids had open periods in their program because, one, we felt like it was going to be important, particularly in this remote environment, but also when if and when we transition back, we wanted to make sure we could do that fluidly. And then, clearly there are things that happened in the past and decisions that were made in the past that have, reverberations around our current programming. And I think it's, again, important just to notate that, as we look at some of this data. But I think the key piece here is this, and again, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of is just looking at the overall percentages, around kind of courses in relation to open periods in this. And again, this is a very broad picture of the school. Fortunately, we can start looking at more of the granular and like identifying who are the kids who have 10 courses, who are the kids who have 4, all of that. But I bring this up because I think it's important to note that, when we talk about workload, just to be very, clear around like, this is how the breakdown in terms of courses in relation to open periods of students. And so, I don't negate the fact that, there's a lot of Zoom fatigue. That's clearly the case. But what we try to be as strategic as possible is trying to break in some open periods so that students have some breaks. Now, what's not in this information is, again, you have to look at the granular individual student program, because one day a kid may have 5 periods straight, and then the next day they may have a period or 2 periods off. So like, there are all these kind of specifics that are very individualized to students, but overall you can just see kind of how our breakdown was in relation to total courses and then free periods. And then just the last thing I just want to showcase again, and I apologize, just again around advanced placement courses. I did find an error that I made around with the freshmen, which Ms. Maggio thankfully pointed out, and looking at my script that I put on in our spreadsheet didn't count. So I'll have to change some of these numbers, but overall the numbers are pretty close. But essentially, what you're seeing is, again, one of the things that makes us unique is that we offer so many AP courses, and a vast majority of our kids do take an AP course in their time at Stuyvesant, many of whom take multiple APs. But the point of it that I want to stress here is, and sorry the numbers are a little bit off, what we did find out is 23% of our students don't take an AP course. Okay, 25% take 1 AP course. Close to 29% take 2 or more, or two AP courses, and then 11% take about 3, and then close to 13% take 4 or more. Now, again, you have to look granular into this, because when we talk about the way I've written the script, it counted all the course codes that, again, identify AP. But at least what I'm trying to show you is that we can start identifying students in pockets of around what they're taking, so that we can closely examine what their course load is. Now, the key piece that I want everyone to walk away with is this. This is a longer term conversation that needs to be had around, again, the student experience. And I'm not prepared to make drastic changes. What I do think, though, allows us to do is to have conversations around, again, how we're making decisions around, again, the student experience and programming. And so I think what's really valuable here is this gives us a closer glimpse, particularly around our staff, around taking a look at buckets of students and, and how they're managing, the courses, how they're doing. And the last thing I'll stress before I stop talking, is, we've got really exceptional students on varying degrees. And again, I think what we see here is, some students are prepared to take many more APs than others, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, one way or the other. It's just a matter of how do we position students to be at their best, regardless of what their course load is. And this is going to allow us to then take a closer look at that. So I said a lot, but I wanted to at least frame that around. There's lots of things happening around how we can make adjustments and the things that we want to put out so that we can work on student well-being. The last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Ms. Pedrick is this, going around the public-facing documents. I want to make sure that we are being very transparent about how we're making decisions and our rationale and our approach. And Ms. Pedrick and her team are kind of the initial group here. And so I've asked them to draft their document about our approach and how we serve and support student well-being. It's a work in progress, but I appreciate the fact that I was able to lay out, lay this out and present it to all of you tonight. So, Ms. Pedrick.
Great, thank you so much. So that was a really great introduction because it shows how many different facets of the high school experience contribute to our overall emotional well-being. For the school counseling department at Stuyvesant, we would like our students to graduate Stuyvesant with the skills to manage their emotions, to successfully navigate in their chosen community, and to maintain strong relationships with their peers and other individuals. To support these goals, the school and college counselors run a series of workshops and one-on-one meetings throughout the 4 years. When we run freshman homeroom meetings, for instance, we are not only educating the child on navigating their new school, we are building a community with the new students. And when we run our once a semester organization workshops, we are giving you skills that will last all 4 years into college and into the workspace. When we hold our small group counseling sessions, we are passing along techniques to last a lifetime of stressful situations. We are fortunate that our setup at Stuyvesant has a homeroom, and it keeps you, the student, with the same counselor for all 4 years, as well as the same homeroom classmates and teacher, helping you to build meaningful relationships with peers and adults alike. In this remote world with so many factors affecting our students, the counselors have found a great tool is our needs assessment survey, the fourth of which, since we've been remote, will be sent to students this evening. The results of this survey help the counselors to prioritize their outreach to those students who indicate they are in need of additional support. It also shares with us that students' preferred method of outreach, video chat, G-chat, phone call, etc. So parents out there, please encourage your child to fill out the survey that will be going out to their @sty.edu this evening. And students who are listening, please fill it out and encourage your classmates to do so as well. So that being said, as Principal Yu was saying, there are so many things that are being done that aren't front facing. You know, so much of the working in a public school, large public school no less, is running from one phone call to another meeting, to a consultation with a teacher, to a chat with a student quickly in the hallway, to a longer chat with a student in your office. So you often just, you know, go about and do your business, keep your head down. And behind the scenes, it's always part of a school counselor's practice to be charting their activities. It's come under a new name called program mapping more recently. So always something for us to mark down things that we're doing month to month. And starting this past fall, all New York City public schools do have to report their program mapping to the state. So it's always been a document that we've had ourselves. Now the state has it, and it's been in talks with the safety committee, the PA, this group, where we're saying, hey, we have to, you know, do a better job of letting you all know what we're doing behind the scenes. So with that being said, as Principal Yu said, this is a draft document right now, because even earlier today when I was presenting to the safety committee, I realized I didn't even put programming on there, which is a big thing. So I needed to go back and add programming. So it's a living, breathing document. Here we go. So on our website, you would see that we have a vision and a mission. So that's our jumping off point here. So we go through and we think about those three buckets, silos, columns here of being our overall student emotional well-being, that community building, and the academic advisement. Really and truly, every aspect of our work falls into one or more of these categories. So for instance, we also have with the help of Principal Yu, helping to show what these activities are and how often they're being offered. And I do want to at least say that you'll see this here. Maybe there's something that's being done on a daily basis. And I just want to preface that this is an activity that's being done on a daily basis, not that the student gets it on a daily basis. So not all 3,300 students are getting, for instance, that second one there, individual casual check-ins or a formal meeting with the student, but those are happening on a daily basis. Also happening daily is, you know, the counselors now have office hours. So that was something that came out of the survey with the student union and our follow-up meetings. So the student union did out the mental health survey and then wanted to meet with each constituency afterwards. School counselors jumped on that. We met with them, and one of the things that came out of that is it would be a great idea if counselors also did office hours. So in our mindset, we're thinking, but we're always available, or we're doing the outreach, or students can always G-chat us and ask to set up. But in getting that feedback from the student union, that was something that counselors have set up and advertised. So at a minimum, each counselor has a once a week office hour set up. They've advertised it to their students with open Zooms, but then of course, always available via those other methods. So if we look at in the fall semester, if you were a senior or are a senior, we had daily virtual hosted visits from admissions representatives. We're looking at the spring semester. The counselors are meeting daily with one-on-one junior meetings to be able to write the counselor recommendation letter known as the secondary school report. If we go down to weekly, actually there's a stuck at home coping skills group that was created in this virtual world. It's been going on for many, many months now. It happens twice a week. Parents, if you feel like your child should be a part of that group, please reach out to our licensed clinical social worker, Jessica at sty.edu, and she'll invite your child. Students were initially invited based on the needs assessment survey and letting us know that that could be something that would be helpful to them. We meet with parents weekly, daily, and I'm just going to scroll down, not go through each and every one of them. We hold school counselor, the school counselor newsletter. Again, another thing the student union said that they really liked representing the student voice in the spring semester was something that the school counselors put out. So we're revamping it. We've recruited some students who are interested in being editors in chief or copy editors and contributors. So that's going to be coming out to you. This is the last week of February. It's going to be coming out to you sometime this week. Let's see, we do this career development through Naviance as part of our career building, counselor-led support activities for our faculty. We'll host PDs on occasion, or we'll go through and help facilitate one of the faculty departments or pop in and those types of things. So Ms. Guthrie, one of our counselors, is a certified yoga and meditation teacher. How wonderful. So she's hosted some meditation sessions for students. Students, you might remember in the spring when we didn't get spring break last week and we made it sort of a wellness week. Ms. Guthrie held a yoga session that day because she had a little bit more time. We have biannually with like Camp Sty, parts 1 and 2, college tours, one for the seniors in the fall, one for the juniors in the spring when we can, programming, etc. We even have some things going quarterly here, such as the college counselor-led workshops. So they do one for each of the grade levels, and then that's not even counting the special guests that they have and the parent events that they have. And then as needed, we are disseminating information to think of all the emails you get from Mr. Macris, for instance, about free resources or scholarships, Mr. Blum's newsletter that comes out on Fridays, and different referrals as needed. So that's a little tiny taste of what a school counselor does. I'm exhausted. I don't know about you guys, but I'm open. We're always looking to get better in the school counseling and college counseling departments. So, you know, just those couple examples from the feedback that we got from the student union, we changed, we pivoted, you know, so we're ready to do that at any time based on feedback or changes, trends, all that good stuff.
Just one thing to note around this, and again, I think this is really important, is, you know, we need clarity about what's happening and why we're doing what we're doing. And again, I think part of what we're trying to stress here is, you know, how we're approaching this work around well-being. And this happened prior to you know, this year. Clearly, the guidance and team, you know, has an approach. And when, you know, these things are happening, whether daily, weekly, or not, these are things that are not just a laundry list, but intended to actually get to this end goal here around what that student experience is like. It won't be perfect, but this is then now a way for us to then have those conversations, because if something isn't happening, then that's a conversation we can have. Like, again, you know, I like the idea around, you know, we want to get to know students, and students develop that relationship with their counselor. And if that's not happening, then we have to look at why that's not happening and what are the ways that can strengthen that. And maybe, you know, if we were meeting with them monthly, maybe that's not the right, you know, frequency. You need to meet with them weekly, you know, or daily. But this is a way, as a starting point, for us to have those types of productive conversations, not to be used as like, gotcha, hey, you're not doing that, but rather like, hey, this is the approach that you've been taking. You know, it hasn't been working with me. What are the ways that we can maybe make some improvements here? So again, this is our starting point in making sure that all these things are public facing. So what we say we're going to do, we're working towards doing, and really trying to make sure that there is clarity around this, and that families, students, and staff are all aware that we're all on the same page, and that we're speaking a common language, so that there are misconceptions and we can at least start working off that and providing clarity.
Thank you.
Parents who
Thank
are out there, please encourage your students to interact with their school counselor as well. As a funny aside, I had a school counselor who told me that she reached out to a student and wanted to check in with, hey, I see you have these periods free, let's do a check-in. And the student wrote back, why? And she wrote back, oh, it's just one of those things, we just check in, want to see how everything's going. And the student wrote back, everything's going fine, so I don't find this to be necessary. So please tell your kids to reply and connect with us as much as we want to connect with them.
Thank you, Principal Yu. Thank you, Ms. Pedrick. So with that, we are opening a discussion. So I'm looking for the SLT members who would like to speak. Ms. Yu, Ting, we're starting with you, please.
Hi, I represent ninth graders, and for our ninth graders this year is being extra difficult. Not necessarily on the academic wise. I have been talking to parents and the students. The workload itself is not the problem for the ninth graders, except for the beginning of the semester. Kids were a little bit shocked with the AP classes, but I think after a couple months, I don't see as much complaining. However, I hear voices about online usage of the internet, with gaming, with socialization, and the kids have difficulty connecting with the school because they don't have friends in school. I think Stuyvesant is providing a lot of services, clubs and stuff like that, but I do know students who does not even participate in any of the clubs. Even if they have some clubs, they have hard time getting into it because they don't have that connection with the school. They don't feel like it's a community. And I think a lot of students say that they feel isolated. I think for the ninth graders, that is the big issue, is the isolation. I think, and also that I think that the parents also feel the frustration because we don't know the other parents. And I'm very grateful for Joanne to have that platform for the parents, especially for the ninth grader parents, to communicate with each other. We feel very lonely out there also. So we were thinking, we were having meetings, we're having discussion. I think a lot of parents really want some kind of activities for the kids to get together, get to know each other. Anything for them to connect. They're just very lonely out there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Giordano, you're next. And then
thank you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, you can read the next speakers. Oh, I'll go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Yu. I really appreciate your comments and what you said there. And it's reminding me of how this whole ball sort of got rolling. In the beginning of January, there was a post in one of the student Facebook groups from a sophomore talking about, it was the day before we returned from break, talking about how they were demoralized about school, were burnt out, didn't feel like they could continue doing this. And there's anyone who goes to Stuyvesant, especially people who have been here for a long time, know that there's sort of there's a silence that pervades a lot of mental health issues between students, and that post broke a lot of that silence. I think that post eventually went on to have 500 different students responding to that online, all saying they felt the same way, something needs to be done. And the student union, heard that, and we felt that ourselves. And so we reached out and we conducted our survey, which Principal Yu and Ms. Pedrick have mentioned. And I know the survey has been distributed, but there's a few facts I just wanted to sort of highlight from the survey that really stood out to me. The first was that 80% of students said that their mental health decreased this semester. And they were listing workload and less socialization as the main two reasons why their mental health has decreased. They said from last year, from before COVID, it was a total of 80% of students that said their homework load had increased by over an hour. 40% of those students said their homework load had increased by over 2 hours. And this is not changes in, we now have more commute time, we have 5 classes a day, so that's with those included. The most shocking statistic, and the last one I'll mention, is one that is not even just from the student survey, it's from the actual school survey conducted by the DOE. It's the one that really highlights, I think, how huge this problem is. It's a statistic that we got, that only 50% of students in the school feel like there is one adult in the building, at least one adult in the building they feel comfortable going to. And for freshmen, that statistic is 42%. Less than half of all freshmen feel like there's one adult in the building they feel comfortable going to. And what upsets me about that is I know there are adults in the building who are there for students to go to. We have amazing support services. We have an amazing counseling department. And our school should be a place that is welcoming and supportive of students. But the fact that students don't feel that way and don't feel comfortable reaching out, that's a huge problem that needs to be changed. And so when we embarked on this, we wanted to meet with all of the stakeholder groups as the students. We wanted to meet with, the counselors, the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and we've been able to do that over the past 2 months, and it's been really informative. And I'm especially really grateful for the counseling staff and listening to our thoughts and suggestions and really engaging the student voice in a lot of different ways. And I think that's been really impactful. We as a student union, I know Miss you mentioned sort of socialization events and clubs. We manage clubs and we manage an online platform called Stuyvesant that students can use to find clubs and learn about meetings. And so we've been trying to step up our work. We actually, Shivali and I just came from earlier today, our spring club pub fair. We normally only do one club pub fair, but we're doing a second one in the spring because we know there's students who still haven't joined clubs. But we do know from our survey that we conducted that 84% of students are in at least one club, which is a really good number. And we're really proud of that. And we're really glad that clubs have found a way to continue working remotely. But we still know there's students that are not being reached. And when we conducted our survey, that was the thing we worried about most. We worried a lot about what are the voices that we're not hearing, because those are the voices who most likely need our help. Those are the students who aren't checking their emails, aren't engaged with this. The students who might not have devices at home, who need extra support. That's what our concern was, and that's what our concern is. And so it's been a whirlwind discussion for us. We've tried to increase our events. We've been hosting a lot of different events and trying to increase that. But we've realized that there's these small incidental moments, I don't even know what to call them, that happen when you're in the school building in person. Like seeing your friends in the hallway or talking to the classmate sitting next to you in class, that have such a defining role on your school experience. And when we went into the planning for this year with this SLT over the summer, we didn't notice that we didn't take those into consideration and how impactful those are. And those are completely gone now. Those small moments that make an incredible difference in students' lives and students' mental health, those are gone. And we need to find a way to bring them back and to bring back support and to make Stuyvesant a school that students feel comfortable and supported going to. And one of the things we've struggled with as we go through this, and this is an issue that's been at Sty for many years. Students have always experienced really high levels of stress, have always complained about mental health. And there's an article I'll mention that principal you mentioned, written by a Stuyvesant graduate from last year, in which he interviewed 2 former valedictorians who both talked about this issue. And there's a quote I'll read in a second. But whenever we bring this issue up, I think there's a dichotomy that emerges, which is that Stuyvesant is an amazing school academically, and in order to support students' mental health, that requires that we need to give a little on the academics, that we need to decrease the academics that make this school great, sort of like a zero-sum game. And I think there's a point to be made with that. But I also think it's not the right way to be thinking about things right now. I think it isn't a zero-sum game. I think you can do it both ways. And Shivali and I are really grateful that we have a lot of contacts with students at other schools across the city, not just specialized high schools, but schools in far out Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx and Staten Island. And so we talked to them about this. We talked to even Bronx Science and Brooklyn Tech about this. And it is possible for schools to support their students socially, emotionally, in terms of their mental health, and provide the academics. It is possible to do both. And there's so much improvement that can be done at Stuyvesant without even changing any of the rules or the procedures we have in place, just by making sure that they're being followed. And even then, there's so much that we can add. It doesn't require taking anything away. And so when it comes to discussions of things like AP courses or workload, or these larger systemic issues, we can talk about those. We can talk about whether students taking 4 APs is something that we like or don't like in our school. But I think we have to understand that's a completely separate and different discussion. Students are facing a mental health crisis at Stuyvesant right now. And it's not because they're taking the same 4 APs that they would have taken on any other year. It's because we have done a really bad job of responding to COVID-19 and supporting our students during that time. And we need to do a good job of supporting them now, not next year, not in years later. There's things that we can do today, tomorrow, and future weeks that will really support students that we need to act on. And I completely agree with the values that the principal you put out there. We need to be making sure we're communicative. We need to make sure we're being transparent with students and with families and with teachers and with everyone. We need to make sure that we're being really clear about what's going on. And I think that's something that we've struggled with as a student union. I think as we've gone through this process, we've really been prioritizing informing students about what action steps are we taking with the administration, what are we discussing. I'm glad to see that we have a larger attendance than normal at this SLT meeting, but I worry about people being informed about what we're doing and knowing that action is being done. I'm going to wrap up soon, Ms. Madjo. I'm sorry I'm going long. I won't comment again for a while. I just want to say a few other things. I appreciate Mr. Yu sharing the document about action planning and change. There's a few things that I found concerning about it. The first one that just stood out to me as a shocker was that the term mental health was only used once in the document. And this is a conversation about mental health. We need to center that, and we need to make it really clear that that is at the core of this. Supporting students is at the core of the work that we're doing. The first sentence in the document, I don't have it in front of me, but it uses this word, what is the optimal amount of work we can assign students to maximize productivity? And I don't like this banking model of education, this idea that we're assigning students work so they can be the most productive as possible. Stuyvesant's school mission is to instill the intellectual, moral, and humanistic values that stay for each child and allow them to reach their maximum potential. That includes social emotional values, that includes social emotional learning, that includes things beyond academics, and we really need to prioritize those. I'll close out. I think there's just one quote I wanted to read from that article, and then I'll cede the floor. But the quote is, as I mentioned, a former Stuyvesant grad writing about having interviewed two Stuyvesant valedictorians who both go to Harvard. His concluding quote is, "While I don't think I could name more industrious and motivated students, the travesty is not that our schools have valedictorians, but that they have casualties, the emotional costs that young people will carry with themselves for the rest of their lives." We're all facing emotional costs during this pandemic, students, teachers, faculty, administration, parents, families. And it's our job as a school community to come together and support our students and support the other members of our community through this process. And it's both a now conversation and it's a systemic conversation that we need to continue having. And it starts here, and it starts at the SLT, and it starts with us being transparent and being communicative and having these conversations. But it needs to result in action. And I don't want to see this be an issue that we talk about, discuss, debate, and then it gets, forgotten really quickly, like it has so many times in the past. This needs to be something that results in action, and it needs to be something that results in action incredibly soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Giordana. I would like to ask, as we are, thank you for the points that you made. Given that we have a lot of people that would like to share their thoughts and contribute to the topic, I would like to ask everyone to keep to the to the minimum of of the time they could speak. So then Ms. Daves, you're next, and
Ms.
Mr.
Daves,
Henderson.
can I just interrupt for 1 second? You got it all over. Can I just ask that everybody put their hand down once you see that your name is on the list, on the panelist list in the chat, so that I'm looking for new hands up to keep the list going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Madjo. So Ms. Daves and Mr. Henderson after that. Thank you. Ms. Daves, you are muted.
Okay. So the buckets that Principal Yu described, workload, extracurriculars, and mental health supports, I think when we look at this problem, we need to look at all of the buckets, and some of them have different solutions. For just this period in time, I just want to speak a moment about the workload bucket. And so what also Principal Yu expressed is that one key piece is us to have conversations about the student experience from different perspectives. And so I wanted to speak about the workload from a teacher perspective and show an exemplar of what a homework assignment would look like for a student, because I don't think we've had a chance to actually see one of those because we've talked about homework and such. So I'm going to share my screen and describe sort of what the expectation would be for students so that we can, okay. So this would be for a sophomore chemistry class. I speak for many chemistry teachers, not just for myself. So if we meet, say a class would meet on Monday, and they would see each other on Wednesday, so there would be 2 days to get this done. the students would read 2 pages in their book, in their textbook. This says page 501 to 503. And they would fill this out as guided notes. And at the bottom, they would note something they don't understand or have questions about. And then after that, they would go over to one of the chemistry teacher sites, and there would be a video. This one is 20 minutes, then this is 19. They would only watch one, but all of them are somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. And as they watch, they would take more guided notes. So students who learn well by reading would have an opportunity here. Students who learn well by listening would have an opportunity here. The time to complete this, if this is 20, maybe reading another 2 pages, would be about 30 minutes over the course of 2 nights. So that's the time. And I want to talk about, so you might think, oh, well, you're just telling me about a minute. What does this have to do with mental health? This is the thing. There's an educational psychologist. His name was Lev Vygotsky. He came up with a theory. It's called the zone of proximal development that a lot of educators use to figure out what to assign their students and why. His theory is that you want to be able to maybe first give them something students are capable of doing on their own. Then you give them something they're able to do with teacher support. And then you give them something that they're capable of doing on their own. So this is an example in this structure, which a department uses, which is essentially using Lev Vygotsky's theory, which on their own, they're able to learn some definitions and do certain things that come at the bottom of what we call Bloom's taxonomy, which is sort of a lower level understanding, things like just definitions and understanding. And then when you come into class, you would discuss and talk about higher levels of concepts. And then you would ask students to do certain either problems on their own, and thus you're sort of scaffolding the learning. So just because we have not had a conversation about what some student work looks like, I just wanted to share and what some of this looks like. And let me just stop. Let's see, share my screen. Hold on. What some of this looks like, and sort of have a better sense of what the student experience would be for workload. Now, this is for a non-AP class. There have been conversations as to, well, maybe we should limit the number of APs. Maybe this is important in looking at the workload problem. So what I will say is if this was an AP class, there would be more work because there is more content to cover. That content is determined by the college board, not by our Stuyvesant teachers. And we need to figure out how to make sure everything gets done in the amount of time allocated by AP exams. So those classes do have more work. And I think I will stop there. I know Mr. Henderson will be speaking a little bit about what English work looks like. And Mr. Wasowski about social studies work. And I'm
Thank you very
happy to
much.
take questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daves. Given that we have a lot of folks that would like to speak, I will have to limit the length of speeches to 2 minutes for going forward, knowing the agenda. So Mr. Henderson, you are next, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The teachers had thought that it would be useful to have an explanation of like what homework looks like. And I'm going to spend actually very little time on that. So like English homework is most of the time you're either going to be reading or writing, and probably something like 30 pages of reading or working on a longer term piece of writing. And I guess there's a couple of things that I would want to say about the workload, but then I think there's a couple of other things I'd like to talk about really quickly. One is that for English, we're lucky in that there aren't set curricula, that we're more able to focus on skills. And so like we are able to sort of slow down, or we are able to make changes according to, having fewer days or wanting to go back and sort of redo something. That said, though, I realize that when I assign homework, I know how long I think it will take. I do not know how long it will actually take. And I think that's something that I want to work on for myself, and then I'm going to encourage other English teachers to work on as well, just simply by asking basically every single day, how long did this take you? Why did it take you X amount of time? And I'm hoping that just gathering that information will be helpful, because one of the things that I think it happens, and this is sort of like moving to a larger things, right now we are all working so hard and we are all alone. And I know that my students are working incredibly hard and are alone, and I am too. And somehow we need to work harder, or at least better. And when I think about like working harder, it's just like more, right? Like, how can I do more? And that's not, and I think, as Julian said, like Stuyvesant, the ethic has always been more. I actually think that that we, both short-term and long-term, should be thinking about better instead of more. And like, there's a lot of discussion to be had about that. And that's like where, I know Julian said, look, well, we don't want to get rid of AP classes. Like, I would disagree with him on that. But I also think that maybe there is room for like focusing on homework. But ultimately, I will say that like, though I feel like no ill will towards anybody in this discussion. My chest tightens up as we have it, because I feel as though I am working, like every teacher I know is working so hard. And then when we're told about how miserable our work is making people, I don't know what to do with that, right? And I am trying to be as responsive as possible. So when I hear things like, well, there are things we can do, yeah, there are. And, the first, I think, remains communication. Like, please just keep talking to your teacher. Wow, I will end my rant there because I've made Casey look so sad. So somebody else talk. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Again, a friendly reminder to please keep this to 2 minutes, just so we can get more people to express their voice. Yes, no, I appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate it. Mr. Wysotsky, you are next, and we have Mayana who goes after that.
So it's been mentioned a couple of times. We definitely have two conversations going on, and I think we have two plans we need to make. And so we're not going to make them tonight, all of them, but long-term and short-term. Short-term to get us through the pandemic. Long-term, right now, we are at a unique point in time with Stuyvesant. However long any of us have been here. For me, it's 20 years. Somebody else, 10 years. We all hear the same thing, and we all say, since I walked in the door, we've been hearing about mental health problems, workload, rat race, competition, where they're competing with each other, but we also have a cheating problem where they help each other. Because everyone's just trying to get through. And we are trying to give them the best we can, the most meaningful work we can. And it may not seem meaningful. When you get a worksheet, a child has a stack of homework, pulls the worksheet, it's 1 of 9, and they get through it. Check, next thing. I mean, this idea of communication, and I like how Ms. Daves explained exactly why this homework assignment is given. I give, for my history classes, for years, I've had them do outlines. I've let them also do Cornell notes on the chapter. And I lay it all out in a calendar a month in advance, so they can also work on their ability to manage their time and their schedule. When we're in the building, I don't check homework every day, but every homework does get checked. So these are things that I try to explain this to the kids the best I can. So I think, I don't know, perhaps our kids, maybe we could be more maybe we could be more forthcoming about the meaning of some of our like why we give certain assignments. That might be helpful for parents and kids. But also just the fact that we've been hearing the same things for years and decades means maybe we should change something. And that when we return, let's say we return to the building in September, our seniors will have spent their freshman year with big backpacks with wheels on them, you know, in the building, kind of finding their place, and then 6 months in the building as sophomores. Our juniors will have only spent 6 months in the building. If there's ever a time for a culture change at Stuyvesant, it's now. And we can do this without sacrificing academic rigor. I don't think we need to. I think we need to sacrifice anything. I think we just need to reevaluate how we do things. I think we've got ourselves caught up in the rat race. I mean, the APs are a hot issue. Personally, I feel that, and I've felt this for a long time. Why should Stuyvesant High School, okay, the best or one of the best high schools in the country, why are we following a private company's curriculum and their calendar, which caters to Southern schools that end in May? There's no reason for us to do that, except because other schools are doing it. There's no reason for it. And I've informally surveyed my kids, just in conversations, raise your hands if you feel this way, that way. Why do you take an AP? A lot of the times to get into the college that I want to go to. So I can stand out. Everyone else is taking 3, I need 4. And the last question I ask is usually, do you take it because you feel you're advanced in the class? I mean, a couple of kids. I think that we should explore for the long term. I got you, I'm almost done. We should explore for the long term alternatives to that. Developing our own advanced topics curriculum, like Scarsdale High School does, which we're often compared to Scarsdale. I think these are things with just conversations for the long term we need to have, while also having short-term conversations. Like when mental health was brought up by Ms. Giordano at the safety meeting in January, you know, I said my students will say that, yeah, it's great that you give us a calendar for your homework, but my AP class, we're moving at lightning speed. Okay, my teachers are stressed, and I hear from the teachers, we're stressed because we have to meet the calendar, we have to meet the curriculum, because that's what the kids want. That's what the parents want. And the kids say, we're stressed because our teacher has to get through all this and moving really fast. Do we have to? Yeah, here's one that's not going to be popular. What if we, I know we're trying to get a later date for the APs. What if we let our teachers teach the same curriculum at an appropriate pace for a pandemic and for a school that ends in June? And not necessarily move just toward the AP exam that we're not administering or in control of. I think these are some conversations that we seriously need to consider.
Mr. Wysocki, thank you. I have to move on to the next speaker. Appreciate it. Ms. Zhang, you're next. And for you and for everyone else, please keep it to 2 minutes. We do have a lot of people who would like to speak. So Ms. Zhang, you're next.
Okay, first I will respond to the student union survey. There are many factors contribute to the student mental health. And I'm not sure if the excessive workload is the bigger problem in the survey for the question number 6, although it asks which factor is most input to the mental health. It is not a single choice questions. It allows students to select multiple reasons. How do we determine in the case which one carry the most weight? About the workload reduction, different students have the course of different difficult time level. Some students may take like 4 APs and 2 honors class, another may not have any AP. Should the workload reduction be applied to all the students, or do we think about restricting the number of AP course, or the total number of the course that you can take is an option? In the case of freshmen, we know that last year they don't take like any regions exam. They offer the AP class not based on the region. So there is a possibility that some of them may not be ready for the AP class. We only finished the homework policy last year. It was drawn a great policy by all the representing party. Currently, how is the homework policy being enforced? Time management skill it also is very important. This is important responsibility to be taken on the student part. Can the parents observe and verify on the student rotate such as time spending on the homework or another activity? Some of the kids, they play game and chat at the same time when they're doing homework. That makes the kids spend so long in front of the computer. I heard that the counselor, they sending the email to the kids once a week to our students. I would like to suggest the guidance counselor to have like 20 to 30 minute section each month for each homeroom meeting with the student, do like a Zoom or Google meeting, discuss about the mental health. So that will be all that I will consider. And I would like to say thank you to all the teachers. You're not alone, we support with the teacher. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Shang. Ms. Murdoch next, and then Ms. Zhu after that. And again, please keep it to 2 minutes max. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation, Principal Yu and Ms. Patrick, and teachers' opinions and students. I'm representing the third junior 11th grade parents and also their children. And I realized as we have such important and so many people interested in this mental health, our students' well-being, I have a chance to talk to a few parents. And then I realized that also I talked to my son as well, that I realized that some reason in Stuyvesant that synchronous class, that's must, and then they go on for full time for all classes. And I have other two children in middle school and also elementary, and they have a synchronous class, but it's not the full hours or full minutes. They have a half of the synchronous and then asynchronous with a teacher, even teachers there, and the students are freely ask questions as they do independent their work. So as we discuss about how we're going to bring up to make our children and Stuyvesant students to be more, happy, and through this time, there's things, coming this March will be 1 year mark for this online instruction and teaching and learning. Maybe we need to find a way to kind of help them to relieve. And one thing maybe we can do immediately is, is there a way that synchronous class can be, reduced? And then, that doesn't mean they reduce the lecture or anything, but give the, freedom and some, the availability that the teacher and student can work independently and can check it out like that. So I like to suggest maybe we can think about it. And if we can get some advice today, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Murdoch. Ms. Zhu, you're next. And then Ms. Majo, you are after that. 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Haiyin. I'm a representative for the junior students, parents. We can see that most of us actually care about the mental health and the student well-being. I just want to say that we can't make a hasty conclusion just because of one survey, nor can we apply it to our school just because of the situation of other schools, or nor any comments. Some comments from graduated students, because the situation changed a lot during pandemic. More assessment and evaluations are needed. After this SLT meeting, especially after Principal Yu shared the 2 files and several faculty members shared the workload of some subjects, I think student union needs to do another student survey to get more survey responses. Because only 20% of the students participated in the survey. 20%, 30%, it can hardly represent the majority of students. Perhaps only students with unhealthy mental health answered the questionnaire, while students who felt that the amount of homework was not too much did not answer the questionnaire. For the current student survey, even 7.2% of them said that the pressure is less than those of pre-pandemic. It is true that we need to care about those students who are unable to keep up with the learning difficulties and too much workload. But what about those students who still have energy, excess energy? Should those students with strong learning ability be delayed there? I say this because many parents have reported that they always see their children have a lot of time playing games. They are not rushing homework overnight. They get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep every day. Some sleep until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, then get up for the online classes. Stuyvesant High School has been a symbol of excellence in education for over a century. Our mission is to continue and enhance the commitment by providing an environment which will nurture and enhance the special academic talents of the students admitted to the Stuyvesant. If the students thinks that there's too much homework, can he or she consider choosing one less course or participate less in extra curriculum? How many AP classes did the student take? So we need to conduct a second student survey to learn more about this issue, find out what the true or the root cause of the problem is, and then prescribe the right remedy.
Ju, I have to cut you off to move on to the next speaker. I apologize, but thank you very much for your comments. We are moving to Ms. Maggio, please.
So I have a couple of things to say because I was asked to share again about homework and stuff for the biology department. So at the end, since I've been teaching AP for freshmen, which we started 2 years ago, I send a survey out at the end of every year that asks the kids like what worked, what didn't, what can I do better, what which it's helped me to address the class. And so this year I sent it out in at the end of the first semester in January because I wanted to, because this is COVID and it's all crazy. And I found a couple of questions to be really sincere. So I teach 3 sections, 100 kids, freshmen taking AP Bio, and I asked a series of questions that were just like, does the homework prepare you for class? 90% of the students said yes. Does the classwork prepare you for exams? 90% of the students say yes. Are the exams fair and based? Yes. Is there too much homework? Yes. I think that's first of all just a standard response that they now give is that automatically, regardless, it's too much homework. So this semester, I've started having kids record how long it's taking them to do every homework assignment for me to get a gauge that maybe it's taking them longer than I think it should take them to do it. And what I'm finding is that 60% of my kids are getting the homework done within the 60 minutes. The range of my time for a single homework assignment has gone from 45 minutes to 3.5 hours. So if I have a single assignment that is taking the majority of my students the hour, and then a whole bunch of students way more, I was like, well, what's going on? So now I'm reaching out to each of these kids. Why is this taking so long? My homework assignments are just like chemistry. We do the flipped classroom where you read stuff, watch videos, and then we come to class and we do the harder stuff together. Students are reporting back that they're rereading the textbooks 4 and 5 times because they don't understand it all and they have to understand it before they come to class, despite the fact that this has never been the assignment and only an introduction to material. Then in addition to my guided notes, which specifies what they need to focus on in the textbook, they're taking additional notes in addition to my guided notes because I didn't cover everything in the textbook and they need to get that stuff even though I don't want them to focus on it. Many of them are admitting that they're being distracted, that they're doing other stuff. And a couple of my assignments legit took longer than an hour and now I'm able to adjust. But I think that there is an issue which has been brought up when it comes to like homeworks, that students aren't accurately keeping a record of how long things take. And that at the same time, they're not always just doing what we're asking. And so the additional pressure that they're putting on themselves to learn it all on their own then adds to the amount of time that they are working on homework. Alex, I need a couple more minutes, I'm sorry. I would like to, actually, you know what? I'm good for now. I can talk again later.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Maggio. Sarai, you are next.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm a little bit sick, so if I start coughing, that's why.
No worries. As long as you keep it to 2 minutes, that's fine.
I'm going to be quick. I think that it's really important that we not undermine the results of the survey that we just did. And I'm a little concerned by some of the points that were made earlier, just from the sense that this isn't a new conversation, and that was repeated by a lot of different constituencies. To frame the current issue as something that we don't have data on, that we haven't had conversations about in the past, it doesn't really represent what's going on, and it also misinforms the conversation that we have today. And I think that if we leave this meeting with the mentality that we need 4 more surveys or like 3 more meetings between students and teachers and faculty, then we're not going to go anywhere. I think we have a reasonable amount of concerned students and parents and teachers, like Mr. Henderson said, that are feeling overworked or that are feeling as though their efforts are not yielding the best possible results for the Stuyvesant community. And I think that I'm worried by the framing that students are the ones that are driving the problem, or that somehow that students are creating excessive amounts of stress upon themselves, because that's not really the nature of human beings. And I also don't think that's necessarily the nature of a Stuyvesant student. I think it also makes a lot of sense that some students may find homework to be super easy, or they may find that they are able to cut down the amount of work that they have. And I appreciate looking at sample homeworks, like many of the teachers have presented or explained throughout their time. But I don't think it's also reasonable to expect that the homework that we see in this meeting is representative of all homeworks, or that, I think that the range that Ms. Maggio described is actually really accurate. If you think about a problem set for math, what might take one student 15 minutes at STI can also take another student in that same class who's equally intelligent 40 minutes. And not because they're wasting time, but because they're different ranges of difficulty. And also some students may not have the same access to previous information in previous classes that might aid them in those assignments. All of which is to say, I think we need to focus on big picture issues that must yield tangible change. I think that the idea, the mindset that we need to have more conversations is not productive, and that we have reasonable concern from various students that would lead me to believe that they aren't creating own stress for themselves. Nor do I think that sort of mindset is going to be productive for any constituency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shivali, you're next. 2 minutes max, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo everything Sarai said, and I want to bring back something Mr. Wazowski said about short-term and long-term goals. I think in the situation we're in right now, we definitely have the opportunity to change a lot of the cultural issues at STI and the way homework and classes are all set up. But considering the situation we're in right now, I think it's time that we refocus our attention to what we can do to improve the rest of the semester for students. I think there's always been a situation for underclassmen where they come to STI and struggle. And I don't want to normalize that. I don't think the mental health issues that underclassmen at STI face are representative of a normal high school student. But I think the underclassmen that I have talked to as a student union representative are facing emotions and feelings that they've never felt in previous years. And that's something that should be addressed right now. And I want to highlight some of the short-term goals that I would really like to see happen. I think, like Sarai mentioned, I know as a student that the homework that was shown today is not necessarily representative of what every classroom's homework assignment looks like. But I do want to say that what Ms. Maggio mentioned about surveys and checking in with students about how long homework assignment is taken or what's being done, I think that is something that a lot more teachers should be doing. And I think it's a really helpful way of understanding whether you're following policies and if students are understanding the material that's being shared. I also wanted to say that there are small things. I know a lot of departments, ever since we released the survey data, have made a ton of improvements, like the guidance department. I know in my English class, we spend less than 10 minutes doing an attendance question every day. And I can honestly say, I know Justin's in my class, it is probably one of my favorite classes to be in. And yes, we are spending 10 minutes talking about non-academic discussions. And maybe that's not time that some classes can spare, but I think it is very valuable, and the extent to which that improves the STI students' experience is immeasurable and something that I think we should definitely keep in mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shivali. Mr. Wysocki, you're next. Please not more than 2 minutes. You're on mute.
Yep, I'll try to be quick. My second turn. So actually, what Shivali was saying about non-academic, I open up, I pick 5 kids and I said, tell me something new and good about your life. Just a quick thing. It ranges from I got an A on a test to I actually got more than 6 hours of sleep and ate breakfast. So I mean, just anything that for me, opens up on a personal note. I find helpful. The kids have told me if they find it helpful as well. But also, so the questions about like APs and what if we, there are always discussions about how long the school day should be, how many APs should they take, how many classes should the kid take, do they have to have lunch? And what about the kids who can do more? Why should we limit them? The problem is, yeah, there are kids that can handle that could handle 12 classes, sure. But then because of the culture that we have, that we would all love to change, of the rat race, the other kids that shouldn't have that many, they'll fight for it. The parents will fight for it. Please, you need to be in this class, get in that class, please get my kid in that class. And they wind up doing that, setting the new standard. And that's what got us to where we are now. I think that if we find another way to do things, that it doesn't have to be limiting, that we could, so for the example, if we further limited how many AP students could take, or if we went the AT model and limited that, how many they could take. What about the kids that can handle more? Okay, then maybe we could also develop programs to help those kids, instead of just more high school, more APs, more of what they're already doing, help those kids find a class they could take a night through a college in New York City, something local. I had friends that did that in high school. I mean, everything from, I mean, it doesn't matter which colleges, but they could take a night class, or they have like the College Now programs. And we can also, as far as the two problems go, we can focus on both of them. There are enough of us who can focus on right now what we're doing, and we can also plan to take advantage of the opportunity that the horrible pandemic has given us to reinvent how we do things at Stuyvesant, really for the kids' sake. And I just want to say, with the article or the opinion piece from Harvard Crimson, I mean, a lot of that is right on. And look, a game, okay? Was it Mateo that said it? They treated it as a game, okay? Whatever we threw at them, well, the point is, whatever the standard is, they're prepared to meet it. So rather than just saying more, we need to come up with things that are different, that really do separate kids. Maybe an after school, not just college, but also maybe an internship program, something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Rosowski. Thank you. Ms. Daves, you're next. 2 minutes, and then Julian. I ask everyone, please be brief, because we are nearing the end of this part of the agenda, and I want to make sure that we still have time for the observer comments. Thank you. Ms. Daves, you're next, and you're still on mute.
So, to Shivali and Sarai, by some of the talk we had today about workload, in no way is it diminishing all of the things that you have been saying. We are hearing you. It is just that we thought that this would be an opportunity to share specific examples of what things look like, just so you have a little insight. You've probably never heard, the zone of proximal development and Bloom's taxonomy and things like that. So I just want to make it clear that we were not trying to diminish that in any way. As I'm listening to this, and I heard Ms. Maggio saying some students take a short amount of time, some students take a long amount of time. I have my little academic educator hat on, realizing there are other buckets, like students having activities outside of school, but just the academic bucket. And I wonder, and this is just maybe a conversation maybe the SU could have with students, and maybe the PA could have with parents. Like, I wonder if it would be worth anything to, students read at different rates, and if you assign a student 30 pages, one student, it might take a certain amount of time, another student, another amount of time. It could be in the universe of possibilities that there might be students, maybe because they recently came to the States and learned English, that their reading speed isn't as fast as other students. And so it takes them a lot longer to do certain things. And our job here at a school is to support and lift up students. But we can't support and lift up if we don't know who we need to support and lift up, right? So is it in the universe, like, is it worthwhile doing some sort of exploration to find out if we have students that have that need and provide some sort of support structure for them? Because if you look at research, there are certain numbers of words per minute that students should be able to read at certain ages and also at certain levels. And like, are our students here, or do we have people that we should need to lift up because they need practice? And once again, I'm totally recognizing there are other issues here. Aside from that, I just have my academic lens on right now.
Thank you, Ms. Daves. Ms. Maggio.
I just have
2
a
minutes,
quick announcement. I don't even need it. I just have a quick announcement for Dina going out, just to let all of the parents know that they're going to get a parent's perspective survey on their observation and experiences on the mental health of their children. The data will be an important lens into which they are experiencing during the day. We're asking if we can get as large a percentage of the student population, of the parent population, I'm sorry, to answer that survey as we can, so that we can see what your perspective is on students at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Julian, you're next. Please no more than 2 minutes.
This time I'll be very brief. Just on that, responding to that parent thing, the student union would love to help out in any way we can and have discussions with parents and continue that. We've spoken with the PA about that, but we'd love to help however we can in addition to that survey. The point I just wanted to make is I wanted to recenter our conversation, because I know we got a little bit in the weeds with things like words per minute and things like that, and I just want to bring us back and make just the few points I wanted to make is one that I believe, and my conversations with teachers over the past few days have affirmed that I think the teachers have the best intentions and are doing the best of their work and are putting in a ton of work and are facing the same issues that students are facing in their own home lives as well. And if it in any way came off before that wasn't the case, I hope that's clarified. And I think this is all about how can we do a better job as an entire community just to support each other. And what I've I appreciate Ms. Daves, Mr. Wazotsky, and Mr. Henderson sharing examples of their homework. I think those are really great examples, and those are actually really great homeworks. They don't represent any of the homeworks that I currently really get in any of my classes except 1 or 2. There's a lot of teachers that give different types of homeworks. There's a lot of teachers who assign homeworks that break policy limits, that break the limits that are in place by the school, that we as students have tried to deal with and have brought up as issues before. There's a diversity of things, so I just want to make sure that the specific cherry picking of certain homework examples doesn't, just like, student data can't represent everything, doesn't represent everything. There's a lot going on. There's a lot at play right here. I see the 1 minute warning from Mr. Shaffron, so I will brief. The thing I want to emphasize right now that I think is a good takeaway for this meeting is communication. And Ms. Daves and people have been talking about extra surveys, finding out more information. We don't need to do this as a student union or as teachers or as parents and then report back and continue this. We can do this in our classes. This is going to happen then and straight away. And Ms. Maggio mentioned she's doing it. She's asking students how long their homework takes them, having those conversations. Shivali mentioned how her teacher is asking students questions at the beginning of class that encourage socialization and community building. That can be built in starting now, and that process can begin immediately, and it can have immediate results. And I think we need to engage in that as soon as possible, instead of pulling the conversation back, which is unproductive. And doesn't get us where we need to be as soon as possible.
Julian, but thank you. We have Principal you're next. And just before you start, again, the same limit to you, 2 minutes, please. And then because we are short on the time that we have for our agenda, and we would like to make sure that we give enough time or at least we use the time for our observers to speak as well. Thank you.
Mute me when I get to 2 minutes.
I will.
Absolutely.
I will. That will happen. Yep.
So just really quickly, I want to say thanks to everyone on the different perspectives. This is a hot topic, and clearly there's things that need to happen as soon as we can, as soon as possible, as well as longer term. I just wanted to say this. This is why that public document here is because departments are talking about what are the things that they can be doing immediately in adjusting and working with students and opening up those communication lines. I think a lot of our teachers are doing that. That's been happening. We need to do that and make sure that's happening across the board. But going back to what Julian said around communication. The last thing I just want to say around this is this. We need everyone. in this. And so, again, these are hard conversations, and I get it, and it's emotional, and it's not always easy hearing things that, again, aren't going very well. So I just want to continue to stress, again, this is a really frustrating time on so many different levels. And what I want to continue to express is we need everyone here. And we need to think about the ways that, again, around the communication, that we're bringing out the best in one another. We are going to address this. We're going to continue to do it. And ideally, we'd do it at a pace that everyone, makes everyone happy. I can't promise that. But what I will promise is that we take this very seriously, and we'll continue to improve on it, both short and longer term. And again, wanting just to make sure everyone is aware that this is top of mind, and getting things out there so that we can create that that transparency that allows us to be accountable, not in a gotcha, but rather as how do we get better at what we are doing at Stuyvesant, and so that the experience can be beneficial and the type of experience that we all want young people to experience at Stuyvesant. Right? So I'll end there.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal Yu. Miona, you have literally 2 minutes, and then we're going to give 30 seconds to the alternates. So please stick to your time.
I will be very quick. After the teacher SLT showing to us, I would like to ask, did the workload actually increase? Do we have any number to support the statement? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So for the alternates, I'm going to ask alternates to keep their comments to 30 seconds, please. Dr. Ned, you are first.
Okay, I want to focus on outreach for the time I have, which is brief. Outreach is something that Ms. Pedrick talked about a little bit. I've worked with a lot of counselors. They're great. I had a few situations with students who really fell behind last semester, and I had to really sort of work with them to sort of level them off. And it required, in some cases, an enormous amount of effort. And this is something, I just want to say that this is something that many of us are doing. It can be very challenging. It's something that I think everyone needs to be doing a lot of. I think that the school has changed. I went here, so I see it from both perspectives. It's just a lot of, sometimes students kind of don't even know how to navigate certain situations.
Dr. Ned, that's 40 seconds.
Thank you. I apologize. I have to interrupt. Thank you very much. Ms. Jordana, unfortunately, only 30 seconds.
I'm going to be quick. I just want to focus on that we need to take action now. We need to enforce the current policies that exist. We need to look at that document from our December meeting, best practices for online learning. It included what we've heard tonight from teachers. They need to be soliciting feedback from their students on the pacing, the content, the assessments at regular intervals, and then making adjustments to the course material for this year, for now. And we also need to designate, we are the only school outside of, Brooklyn Tech and Bronx Science have done this. They designated an entire day to community building, school-wide. We should do it. We need to change the messaging to our students.
Ms. Giordano, that's at 40 seconds. I'm sorry.
Success is not just academic success, it's health and wellness as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jordana. Justin, 30 seconds if you still would like to speak. Before we are going to open it to the observers outside attendees, and the first person after that would be Ms. Lin Huang.
Got it. So should I go right now?
Yes, please go ahead. 30 seconds.
Thank
please.
you. All right. Well, though we have both long-term and short-term issues at hand, I believe that short-term issues are definitely at heart. AP classes and the restrictions are definitely not the issues currently. It's like if we have a student drowning right now, but he's also starving, we throw him the lifesaver first and then the coconut. We're not just focusing on the coconut, which are the APs. That said, students know that when they're capable of taking various APs, and we evidently saw that in recent surveys that mental health has declined, and now we are taking the same, if not less, APs. Thus, APs are not the issue at heart. There are other variables at hand. And I'm disheartened that we're discrediting some sort of survey implications because a significant amount of students who are struggling right now. And we still aren't taking account into the entire student populace. So we should definitely be aware of the various students who are suffering right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Lin Huang is next. If Dina, if you could help put Lin through. And then after that, we have Sarah El Sayed goes after that. And then Miranda Lepre after that. Again, please keep it to 30 seconds. We'll have to interrupt you just because we only have a limited time. Thank you very much.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lin Huang. I'm a senior parent at Stuyvesant. For the past 2.5 years, I volunteered as a Chinese parents WeChat group moderator for almost 800 parents. Mental health, time management, and homework note are some of the most discussed topics on WeChat. We realized that there is a big disparity in terms of the priorities of homework amount. Some think the amount is appropriate, some think it's a lot, and some think it's not enough. While it is possible that some teachers in some classes might be given too much homework, it is simplistic and wrong to think that the across the board reduction in homework is necessary or advisable, given the reduction by half of instructional time and the elimination of community score this year. I believe that social isolation during pandemic is the biggest factor affecting kids' mental health. Even the best remote learning lessons can solve the problem that our kids are facing, prolonged isolation. And last, I really appreciate the effort of the Stuyvesant faculty have tried to improve remote learning despite the limitation imposed by DOE guidelines. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. Do we have Sarah El Sayed?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Please
so
go
I'm
ahead.
Sarah.
Please keep it to 30 seconds. Thank you for joining. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to be as quick as possible. So this is kind of very different than a lot of what has been mentioned, but I think it's something that's really crucial and I haven't heard like at any mental health discussions. I feel like a lot of people when they think of mental health think of like anxiety, depression, etc., and combating that. But there's been sort of like a very rampant issue at Stuyvesant that I've seen both in myself and in a lot of my peers, where it's basically there's a lot of eating problems that are very like prevalent at Stuyvesant. Many people that I know have suffered from eating disorders due to the high amounts of stress and anxiety and depression, and there's very little support for that. And I feel like that should be something that should in the long term be worked on, because that sort of a problem can be very fatal in some cases and also can last for years at a time. And it's something that I feel like intervention is needed pretty early on, and it's not something that's very prevalent right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Alex, just 1 second. I just want to point out that this week actually is Eating Disorder Week, and information went out either in Angel's newsletter or Dina's newsletter today about that.
Thank you, Ms. Majo. Moving on, Miranda Lepre is next and Angela Chan after that. Again, please keep your comments to 30 seconds. We'll have to interrupt you, unfortunately, but we need to stay on top and keep our agenda going.
Alex, you skipped Connie.
I know we've talked about Connie actually reserved her right to go.
Okay. Hi.
Be later and give her.
Okay. I guess I just quickly want to say, I think having been here for 4 years, I think that I agree a lot with what Mr. Wazowski mentioned earlier, which is that I think there's a problem with framing this discussion around the idea that a lot of the struggles people are enduring is something unique to the pandemic. I think that what the pandemic has done by distancing students from the building and from their teachers and administration has just sort of exposed or worsened a disconnect that already existed, which is that not for every teacher, not for every class, but for definitely a significant and, dangerous amount, there is an inability for students to communicate that they're struggling and have that kind of a compassionate response and not fear maybe retaliation. And so I just think that like whatever we do needs to be framed around like a long-term response to this and not just like what we're going to do in the next 3 months over Zoom. Like I think this is something that goes beyond just the pandemic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela Chan.
Hello.
Yeah, Angela. Hi.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, to share your opinion. For me, I just want to echo previous parents say, the mental issue is not just right now. So I hope we can build up the good program to how the kid and also the teachers has at least has some training course and get them basic knowledge how to deal with the mental issue, to build up the good habit, and also the teacher always very connect to the kid, and then hope that they can, help them to less a little bit stress during the class, during the pandemic time. And of course, it's not just to reduce the homework, definitely they have the different interaction to help the kid, struggling, in order to help them to move on. Yeah, thank you.
You so much, Ms. Chen.
Thank you. Lindsay, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, terrific.
So I
30
talked to
seconds,
several
please.
parents,
Yep.
sure, and some of them, the parents have similar issues that as I see in my kid. His problem is he often play games and chat with his friends before homework and go to bed really, really late and get up really late too. He has enough sleep actually, but I mean, if he started earlier and more focused, he would have finished earlier and end up living healthier. So both mentally and physically, but he still complains about too much homework sometimes. I think we need to help them to at least don't be afraid to educate them to stay away from distractions, to better time management. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mahin Sharia?
He's not here. That's what
He's
the
not
star
here?
means.
Okay, all right. Miss Emily Romero. Ms. Romero? Do we have you? Okay.
She's on camera, but I think she's muted.
She's muted. Okay. Just giving it another several
Hi.
seconds. Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry. I didn't think I'd get called on, but thanks for the.
No. Here goes. In 30 seconds, please. We'll have to.
Okay.
We'll have to move on after that. Thank you.
I'll make it really quick. I just really want to support what Julian and Joanne said. I think it has been a year that we've been in this pandemic. It's been 2 months since the outpouring from the students, and we still have 4 months left of school. So I would really hope we see some urgency and some action. I think the homework, we're already seeing from the data that the homework, addressing the homework load across the board, top down, would be one of the best solutions in the short term. So I would hope that we could take that one issue and really dig into that. And then I agree about long term, but I do think there is an opportunity to address short term right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ryan Lee, you're next. Ryan Lee.
He's also here, but
yeah, Ryan, please go ahead. You have 30 seconds, please.
Hi, my name is Ryan Lee, and I'm a sophomore at Stuyvesant. And so I just wanted to say that I'm seeing a lot here is that everyone's sort of pointing fingers on whether it's be students or teachers, but it's an effort that's so many things, that are so many problems with different people and different things, and we shouldn't be looking at this at a perspective of attacking this one thing, but we should be doing this together in terms of just trying to figure out a consensus that really is just trying to help people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan. Ms. Dunkel.
Hello.
30 seconds, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to say that thinking and learning takes time, and teachers at Stuyvesant ask students to learn at a really high level, but we've never really been honest about how much time that really requires. And I think that we do need to take this moment where we're concerned about balance to consider a schedule that will allow students to think. Longer periods, particularly for APs, but maybe not only for APs, I think is a necessity. We need to be looking at student experience in a holistic way, and we need to consider how we maintain a high level of intellectualism in a sustainable way. And so I'd just like to also say that I do disagree with Julian's comment. I don't think that we can do what we've always done with no structural change and get what you're kind of looking for.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Dunkel. Next person is Emma Donnelly. Eva Koo and Jennifer Zhang are after that.
Thank you. As the president of
30 seconds,
Arista,
please.
I really noticed that even though we've been providing a lot of academic support, Most notably, we've introduced our recent office hours initiative. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound, and I definitely agree that that's why systemic change really needs to occur with the workload, because the academic support is not being utilized by the students. And for our office hours, we only have around 1 to 2 students each day who are actually popping in our Zoom session and actually asking questions. And in terms of the long-term goals, I really do feel like AP tests do take away from this sort of joy and love of learning that I think a lot of students at Stuyvesant come to the school for in the first place. And when we place an emphasis more on, doing homework because we really enjoy the material learned and because we want to really deepen our knowledge in what we're discussing in class, and are deepen our understanding through, communication with our peers and hearing their different ideas. That's something that studying for a test can.
And I'm really sorry, I need to cut you off.
Thank you, Emma. Eva Koo, you're next, and we have Jennifer Zhang and Alice Chow next. After that, and I would like to mention that we are 2 minutes away from the end of our official end of our meeting. I would like to ask, before we move with the observer comments, I would like to ask the members of SLT if you would like to extend it by 5 minutes to finish the observers list. Do I have a thumbs up? Please show. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we officially extended by 5 minutes, and the goal is leaving each observer 30 seconds to finish our list of pre-signed observers. Thank you very much. And Eva Koo, you are next. Going one, going twice. Dina, I wasn't sure if Eva is in the house. Sorry.
Eva is in the house, but we cannot hear her.
Okay. So Eva, we can't hear you. We're moving to Jennifer Zhang, please.
Hello, everyone.
Yes,
can you hear
hello.
me?
Yes, we can.
Hi.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you. I have a 10th grader. So what I want to say is that this pandemic has affected us enormously, and it has changed the way that each and every one of us live our lives. So we're all because we're all cooped up in our apartments and couldn't do much for almost the whole entire year now. So if this is not stressful, I'm stressed out, if it's not stressful, I don't know what else will be. So mental health is very important to me and my family. As a mom, I want my children to be happy, not depressed. So simply reducing homework load across the board is not the solution to the mental health crisis that we're facing now. And I do have some suggestions. I would like to see, STI-SU have more virtual socializing events for students.
Ms. Zhang, I'm so sorry I have to cut you off. I would love to hear your ideas. I think you put them into the document.
Survey.
And I'll
There will be, yep, thank you. There will be a survey going out to parents shortly that that will be sent out by Dina, and PA will certainly distribute it. We are moving to Alice, if she's in. And
yes, I'm here.
Derek, you and Amy Jackal right after that. And Alice, 30 seconds, please.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a freshman members at large, representing the freshmen. I'm supportive of Mr. Yu's proposal and the teacher's proposal about checking with the student, because they are closest to the student every day. And also separately, I think parents is a big part of this, that we are first line of defense, and to see how their kids change every day. And I appreciate that STI-PA provide a lot of information and seminars on how can we communicate with our kids. But I would like to see more follow-up workshops for the parents. There's a lot of suggestion, but I think when it comes into works with your kids, it's not that easy. So that's what and also one more point is
I'm so sorry. Chow, I have to cut you out. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Sorry, Alice. Thank you very much. Derek, you are next, and after Amy, we will be looking for Adriana Feder.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can. Yep.
Yeah,
Derek,
I would like
30
to echo
seconds,
that.
Please. Yep.
Okay, I would like to echo that less homework. I don't think that's the major concern or issue, because when you ask the kids, who would say they don't have enough homework? Okay, they all say they have too much. Okay, no matter what. When you ask them, do they have enough time to play? They would say they don't have enough time, of course. So I would say cutting down the homework is not the case. If you cannot catch up in the class or AP class, you have a choice to opt out. Don't take those classes. This is a freedom country, right? So if you cannot catch up, or you talk to the teacher. Communication is the main point.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Yu.
Thank you, Derek. Amy, you are next. Adrian after that, and Thomas, you right after this. And 30 seconds, please.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear
okay.
you. Hi.
Okay, thank you. Yes, hi. Thanks for hearing me out.
I'm about to speak. I can't read.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Can
Amy,
I start?
Amy, yes,
Oh,
please go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So respectfully, I want to say that the goal here should not be maximum productivity. It should be about student learning and about graduating students who are prepared to go out into the world. And I just echoing what Julian said, you can have academic rigor and a nurturing, sane, healthy environment at school. So what are STI students going through? In my case, 16 hours per day in front of the screen, and yes, constantly doing work, no fun, no play. No one's given us any reason to look forward to a better future. Each day can feel like an unremitting slog of thankless work, pushing a boulder up the hill, only for it to tumble down the other side. And this, what I'm saying is not directed at any one of the teachers in this room, but teachers routinely do break policies that would limit homework.
Sorry, Ms. Tresel, I have to cut you off.
Okay, I have some suggestions that I'll post.
And when you get the parent survey.
Yeah, this survey is going out shortly. So Amy, please make sure to fill this out, and so that it goes into the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thought I had 60 seconds. Thank you.
30, yes, no, understood. Sorry. Adriana, you are next. If you could unmute yourself, you have an ability to do that. And once you do, you have 30 seconds. 30 seconds, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't unmuted before. So
No.
I'm a parent of 11th grader, and I'm also a psychiatrist and researcher in the field of stress and resilience. And I just want to echo what many people have said, that there's no restorative behaviors for the teens, like exercise, sports, outdoors, meeting up with friends. So STI students are used to working hard and playing hard. The problem is that there's no balance now, and it's a lot of work and there's no play, except for online games and stuff. So there's less capacity for the students to deal with the usual pressures at STI, and that's a whole range. There's some kids who are extremely resilient and can do fine, and others who are less resilient, and they don't have to be mentally ill. It's just arranged, but overall, there's more stress. And so I do recommend or agree with the recommendations about making sure the workload is not too much and enforcing the policies, and also absolutely the conversations with the teachers in the class.
Ms.
Thank
Slaughter,
you.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. And please make sure
Thank
to fill
you.
out this survey. Thomas, you is next. Erica Chang after that, and Barbara Pachevsky is the last observer to speak. And 30 seconds, please, and we will be done after that. And Tom, are you here?
Mr. Yeah, well, thank you for everyone. I think your efforts are just heroic. It's wonderful. And all of us so care and love STI so much. And we're just appreciative. So we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate it. Erica Chen.
Hello, everyone.
Next.
Hello, everyone.
30
yes.
seconds, please. Thank you.
Yes, this is Erica Chen. I'm a sophomore parent. Actually, I want to say thank you to everyone here, especially our teachers. I believe that during the pandemic, even, everyone has a challenge. I think adults, we have mental health issue, and, especially, we have to handle all the new changes. So I want to give credit to our teachers. And I want to echo what Ms. Dave said, about the AP course difficulties. I think, if student is not, able to meet the requirements, sometimes they might need to consider, reduce the AP they are taking. Because reduce the, requirement of AP to take the exam, they might not be able to, take the exam with the, good credit, So I think, we have to all look into it. And I wanted to talk about.
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Chen, I need to cut you off.
Okay, I will write in the comment then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the last observer speaker for today is Barbara Pachevsky.
Ms. Pachevsky has left.
Oh, she's left. Okay.
Actually, Eva Koo left and then came back. Is she still here?
Okay, yeah, if Eva is here.
And then Eva's really the last person if she's here.
Yeah, agreed.
Eva?
She's unmuted, but there may be a problem.
Okay, all right. Going once, going twice. All right.
Sorry,
Eva, yep, apologies. Please make sure to fill out this survey. And with that, on this note, we've heard a lot. We had a lot of different points of views and conversations, and I think it's time to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn for today? Do I have a second? Thank you very much. We are done for today. The meeting is closed. Thank you, everyone, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.